Down is forward, up is backwards. Great show. Good, thanks. Looks like y'all are set up. Down is forward. Oh, I think so.
All right, Travis.
Cool.
All right, thanks, Travis.
No, yeah. No, did you see it?
Have a spotlight on posting like 60 volunteers, because I don't want to name drop anybody. Is there anybody who
I'll be really in a second. Thank you. Y'all got distinguished gentlemen here. Be on your best. Be on your
Welcome. Jared, would you please lead us in our invocation? I believe it's on.
Please bow your head. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for bringing us together this beautiful Monday. Please bless the many, all the folks that are gathered here with us today. As we head into the Easter weekend, we are reminded of the sacrifice of giving your only Son, Jesus Christ, in salvation for our sins. Please continue to bless the leadership shown by this club, inspire us each to be better, and an example to those around us. In your name we pray. Amen.
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, sing and sing by the dawn's early light, what so proudly we hail, and the twilight's last gleaming, whose stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight. For the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets ran there, the monsters steaming there, gave word through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, save us that star-spangled banner wave. For the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Thank you. Please be seated. Courtney, would you please introduce our guests?
She said, this is my friend Shannon. He is my guest lecturer today. Shannon
I understand she's planning on joining us, is that correct?
is
She's planning on joining us, is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Wonderful.
And Michael, which on spot. This is Michael, the guest of ours today. There it is, John.
All right, we will turn it over to Tom Seal for an update on March Madness. I'm certain Courtney and Jeff are still in it. Is anybody else still in it?
Let's see. All right, we are down to 8 teams. So, Steve Horlander still has Gonzaga. Chris Ivey has USC. Jared Kent has Michigan. And Jim Eccles has UCLA. In the South, we've got Lee Montgomery still has Baylor. Jeff Johnston has Arkansas. Randy Henderson has Oregon State. And Trey Patterson has Houston.
All right.
So, I guess those games are set up for Saturday or Sunday next week. So, all right. So, good luck to you, 8.
Thank you, Tom Seal. Will you give the microphone to Johnny Ortiz, please? Johnny, you want to come on up and do a Rotary spotlight?
Absolutely. We're going to do it a little different now. Last week was a little odd. Before I do, I'm just going to go ahead and help Mr. Munn out. Earlier, I told you she wasn't here to give you 50-50. Oh, I think we the hint. You wanted to hint to volunteer. Today we get another volunteer, and it's Mr. John McDougal. Come on out. For our guests, this is the member spotlight portion where we get to know a little bit more about our members. And we kind of just really try to dive in a little bit. So my question is going to be really simple, nothing hard. But just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, I grew up in Augusta, Kansas, and one of the things I like to tell people now that I work for Junior Achievement, because it's very relevant to the job that I have, is that when I was 7 years old, I opened up my first savings account, and the interest rate then was 13%. I don't think we'll ever see that again. But as I help young people learn about saving and investing, I think that's a really important thing that I share with them about saving. Is my experience when I was that young. We hope to start them out when they're very young as well.
It's amazing how compound interest works, right?
Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about your family.
Okay, married to Joy. We've been married almost 29 years now.
Nice.
Joy is from the Philippines, so we have a very unique story, and I can share that one day because everybody asks us, well, how in the world did y'all meet since she's in the Philippines? And so we've got an amazing story that I can share with you at some point. So after she was here for about 5 years, we were able to petition for her mother to come. So my mother-in-law lives with us as well. And a lot of people are amazed by that. The first question is, well, how is that living with your mother-in-law? That must be horrible. I said, no, it's wonderful. She's great, and love having her be with us. She's been with us, I guess, for about 15 years that she's lived with us, and it's been wonderful.
Yeah, Filipinos, very awesome culture. I love know the mother-in-law story. Children?
No children. We have a lot of nephews and nieces, and we have a real close family friend, and Chloe is a 8-year-old that we kind of made as our own niece. Technically not by blood, but we actually spent all day yesterday with her. We take her to places, and special holidays, Christmas and Easter and Thanksgiving and different things. We take her out to different places and enjoy spending time with her.
Nice. You already heard what you did for a living. What about fun, recreation? What do you do in the Tyler area for recreation, hobbies, that type of thing?
Well, I'm kind of boring when it comes to hobbies. I don't really have too many hobbies other than I love to travel. And COVID obviously has put a big damper on that. But we love to travel all around the world, different places. I'm not a golfer. I don't really care much for sports. There's just not too many things I really care about other than getting out and seeing new places. It's amazing how much you can learn about different cultures when you go to different countries. And it really opens up your eyes to seeing a whole different world that's out there.
What would it is, we kind of dive in a little bit deeper into the travels, what's been your most interesting destination that you would never go back to?
That's a great question. There's so many places that I love visiting. Singapore, I think, would be probably the most fun trip that my wife and I went on. Just an incredible city, very clean. Most everybody there speaks English. Not any traffic problems. So many fun and amazing places to visit there. Just an incredible place to go. So if you've never been there, you definitely need to go.
Put it on the bucket list.
Exactly.
And motivation. What motivates you, John? What gets you up and going?
I have always, I guess after college anyway, I've done nonprofit work. And what really motivates me is knowing that I'm making a difference in the lives of young people. That's my passion. Always has been. And just knowing that I'm making a difference in their lives so they can grow and be good citizens in our community and give back and make a difference as well.
Awesome. And why Rotary?
Rotary, it started out, not necessarily, I wouldn't say selfish, but it was just a part of my job. When I started working, over 30 years ago, it was a requirement with the Boy Scouts, which was the first nonprofit that I worked with when I got out of college. And it was required that you join a service club. And usually the scout executive, he was always going to Rotary, so I didn't get to join Rotary right away. It was Kiwanis that I joined because it was different club than what he was in. But as soon as I moved and got my first promotion to Amarillo, then joined a Rotary club and been involved ever since. So it's been close to 30 years, I think, that I've been involved in Rotary. One of the things that I wanted to mention when I got a chance, I've been thinking about it for a long time. I forgot who the president was at the time. I think it might have been Nancy Crawford, but I can't remember for sure who mentioned this. But she challenged all of us at one point that we all needed to think about bringing in new members. And all those years that I told you that I've been in Rotary, I never even thought about it. I was always so busy with my work and doing nonprofit work that I was never able to really spend any time and effort in recruiting new members. And just because she challenged me that day, within about 3 or 4 months that particular year, I recruited 5 new members. And so we all can do it, it's just a matter of asking. And so I always wanted to bring that when I get a chance to get there and talk. And the other thing was the Paul Harris Fellowship. It was another thing I never thought about, and I think she was the one that mentioned that too. And so it got me thinking, you know what, for those 30-some years, if I would have even given just a little bit every year, just think how many Paul Harris Fellowships I would have. I've got, 1 plus 1, but I could have had 10 or more if I would have thought about it when I first joined. And so that's a challenge to everybody if you haven't thought about those things to do so.
Absolutely.
Well, perfect segue. John mentioned to me several months ago, that he never received his +1 pin, correct? Correct. And so I was able to give him his +1 pin, and I'm going to present it today.
Hang on to that microphone. This is going to be a purely selfish question on my part. Favorite dish? Favorite Filipino dish?
Oh, that's really easy. Lumpia. Lumpia is my favorite Filipino dish. It's like an egg roll, but it's so much better. And whenever my wife cooks those for Christmas and things like that, when we go visit the family, before she can even cook them, before the meal is even served, they're all gone. And she'll cook about 100 or more, and there's none left before the meal even begins. So, lumpia.
All right, thank you.
Johnny, you want to go ahead and talk about orientation?
Yes, one last thing. Today, if you didn't see it on your South Tyler Rotary bulletin, today the meeting and following the meeting right here in this library section behind us. We're going to be doing a little meeting orientation. So if you're new, welcome. You're definitely invited to come. If you're a veteran, you're definitely invited to come. If you're a guest, you're invited to come. So really, if you had everybody come, just be right here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Johnny. Dalton, you want to make your way up? Well, Dalton's on his way up. Beth couldn't be here today, so just wanted to remind everybody that we have the spaghetti supper. It's going to look entirely different this year. There was a little bit more information in the bulletin that went out yesterday, so if you're looking for the letter or the invoice, you can find it in the bulletin, and we'll try to get it posted on the website. We are asking people to consider, if you can, ask for May 20th off, because we're going to need lots of help. Stephen. Okay.
I'm helping with the spaghetti supper through the grant process. If any of the members of this club sit on the board of the local foundation, please get me through. That's all I need to know. I guess, like I said, there's some pretty major movers and shakers in this club. I need to know if any of y'all sit on the local foundation.
Thank you, Stephen. So if you have any questions about the spaghetti supper, please contact Beth. She is watching via YouTube. You can text her or call her or email her. And I'm going to pass it over to Dalton to talk about some upcoming service opportunities.
All right, thank you, everybody. So who here has done a trash pickup with us at Burfield Park? A lot of you guys. And they're always a lot of fun, right? Yeah, well, I've got something even better for you. It's going to be the Greater Tyler Cleanup. The Great Tyler Cleanup. April the 10th. We're doing it on Saturday, so hopefully a lot of people will be able to be there. One of the great things about doing the Great Tyler Cleanup is it's a citywide project. A lot of people are involved. Whenever we do a Burkeville cleanup, you do not get a t-shirt. If you come to this on Saturday, you're going to get a t-shirt. So we're going to have matching t-shirts going forward. It's going to be great. It's going to look really good on Instagram. No, I'm just kidding. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to clean up Burkeville Park. And then
We need a city manager to sign that for us.
Yeah, there you go.
there we go. There we go. So make plans on Saturday, April the 10th. It's going to be from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. We'll clean up Burkeville and then work our way down Broadway for the event. So let me know if you plan on coming to that. You don't have to sign up.
Well, we are limited to 20.
Okay. We are limited to 20. So if you can come, let us know. If you're going to bring a friend, let us know as well. Then we've also got a blood drive coming up a little further down the road. So May the 24th. It's going to be on a Monday. It is May the 24th, that Monday. But I did get a thing in the mail just this morning. If you are O positive or O negative and can donate platelets, you don't have to wait till the 24th. If you can go ahead and do that now, that is actually a really big need and something super easy that can really save a life right now. That's all I have.
Thanks, Dalton.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, I think if you are a regular blood donor, you might be able to get blood right now and still make the May 24th, because I think it's 6 weeks or 8 weeks, I don't remember. So, and also, I know 2 of our members volunteered over the weekend with the Net Health COVID vaccine clinics, Kimberly, Ashley, and Kathy White, and they suggested, they both reached out to me since they volunteered, and they both suggested that our club consider volunteering. I asked if they were considering like all of us go out at one time, but what they told me was like the non-clinical positions, they only had 5 of 25 slots filled that day. So they're really looking for some volunteers to help out. You know, Rotary is really big with polio plus, as well as just disease eradication in general. So if you have an opportunity, I'll email out the sign-up information to all of you guys this afternoon. So please consider that. I know if you've not gotten a shot and you sign up, you get a shot. I think most of us have had an opportunity to do that thus far. But just a couple things to take into consideration. In your bulletin, there was also some information about the District 5030 fundraiser coming up on May 22nd. You'll get a little bit more information about that. And then you also should have received an email today from me that had some upcoming events for other clubs. Bullard Rotary Club is hosting their first annual clay shoot on April 16th. They're looking for teams and sponsors. There was a flyer attached to the email that went out. And then Tyler Rotary Club, their postponed centennial celebration is going to be on June 5th, and more information will be coming out about that. Any announcements from the floor before we start our program with Henry Bell? Tyler?
I want to tell you all in April, being a month is going to be very busy in April. Get everything ready to go for our vacation trip to Costa Rica. We're going to leave at the end of the month of April.
Thank you, Tyler. Hope you guys have a great time. Any other announcements from the floor? Anything I'm forgetting to mention out there? Doesn't look like it. Colleen, are you? I'm going to call Colleen up so she can introduce our speaker, Henry Bell.
Okay, so he probably doesn't really need any introduction, so I'll keep this short. Henry Bell has worked for 14 years with Regions Bank, our local Chamber of Commerce, for over 24 years. I think he's been on every board in Tyler, truly all of them. However, today he's on the United Way of Tyler-Smith County, Samaritan Counseling Center, and chair of the Development Board of the Pharmacy School at UT Tyler. And he does an amazing job with the Chamber and all over the community. So if you don't know Henry Bell, please make sure to introduce yourself to him. Henry Bell.
Thank you, Colleen. Appreciate that.
The remote for is right there.
Okay, thank
and
you.
Down is forward and up is back.
damage forward, goes back. Okay, that's great. I'm going to try to use this PowerPoint. I don't use it all the time, but it kind of halfway keeps me on track. Many of you have heard me do this presentation before, and I can get too wound up and not even get to the 1900s. So I've done this twice in the last 10 days, once at Leadership Power class and once in the Leadership Power Executive Series class. The one of the class, I think you were there, and I even eliminated the two speakers behind me. I went so long, and for some reason, Smithy didn't stop me, so scream at me. But Colleen did suggest that you do like Q&A, just stop me in the middle, and that'll help me rethink. Okay, you've got 30 seconds to close it out. So anyway, I really like doing this. Appreciate you all having me here again. I think I've done this a couple times to this club. I've done it to the other Rotary clubs too. I'm always intimidated when Rob Jones is in the ring because he knows a whole lot more about history than I do. So he just keeps me on track and corrects me, and sometimes adds something that I can add to it. And that's what I like about history so much, is that even though it's happened in the past, there's so much more you can still learn, and so much that there is to learn. You never learn it all. And we're creating history as we go forward. So remember that. Remember that when you're posting on your Facebook page, maybe you created history that can be recorded. Much more than they had way back in the beginnings of the 1800s. So you could become part of history. But also a little bit of history with Rotary and things. I am a member of the Tower Rotary Club. Just a little, I like trivia kind of questions. So I am a past president of the Tower Rotary Club. I'm a third generation past president of the Tower Rotary Club. And when I became the president, I can't remember, I think maybe 2007 or something like that, they contacted International to find out if this had ever been happened before. There were lots of third, fourth, and fifth generation Rotary Club presidents. But guess what? I'm the only one that was third generation, all in the same club.
Oh, wow.
Everywhere, all over the nation. There's nobody looking at Tyler coming behind me as far as children, so that may be it, unless somebody who's going to tell. You have to be real careful with me. I'm fifth generation Tyler on my father's side of the family, on my mother's side of the family, and 3 out of my 4 grandparents are all born in Tyler. So we kind of go back, and you probably haven't met many Bales. The only Bale relative I have is in Tyler. This is my brother and sister-in-law that live here, because my father had 1 sister, my mother had 3 sisters, and my grandfather Bale had 6 sisters. And because of all those sisters, and by the way, my brother and I mainly produced females. So because of all those females, I'm related to almost everybody in Tyler. So as a matter of fact, you probably don't remember, but distantly I'm related to Jim Eccles on my mother's side of the family. So there's a little bit of everything. My mother's side of the family was the Kidd family, the Kidd Dairy. My over there by where Don Mons is, at St. Paul's Church. My great-grandfather was in the ministry at St. Paul's Church for many years, and his daughter is the one that wasn't born here, so there were still some blood roots there. But we're going to take you back to Tyler, Scoop County. Back in the 1840s is when my great-great-grandfather came to Tyler. He got sent here from Alabama from his father-in-law to go find a new frontier land and see if it would be a good place to move the family. So he came in 1840. Well, Tyler and Scoop County was not even incorporated then. They weren't really a designated city by name. Because if you remember, we won our independence from Mexico in 1836, and that lasted for about 10 years. So he came to this new independent country to see if it was a great place to live. He ended up staying, and the rest of them followed shortly after that. But the first people that settled in this area were the Indians, and the Indians were primarily the Caddo and Cherokee Indians. I guess I should say Native Americans. They were Caddo and Cherokee. They came here, and if you'll notice at the very beginning of it, I kind of categorized this whole presentation as 4 words that kind of define the history of the area, and that's water, war, roses, and oil. And so the water is the beginning and the end, because water is important. We all have to have water to exist. All living things do. And so the Native Americans that came here because of the water supply. East Texas is very blessed with natural water, springs and water, and lakes that we can benefit from, and that's why they came first. Now the springs are kind of still around, they kind of cause a lot of trouble. We have a lot of natural springs that cause fits for constructions and stuff. A lot of them in downtown Tyler. As a matter of fact, that's where Spring Street gets its name. It runs just east of the courthouse. There's lots of natural springs, all under downtown Tyler, and that's kind of where the first inhabitants came, is where downtown is now. If you don't believe me, don't go to jail unless you just want to go for a tour of the city, but there's a tunnel that runs from the jail to the courthouse. Go down in the tunnel, get real quiet, and you can hear those springs running. There's still springs running. You can imagine what they were when they were building that tunnel. So they were the first inhabitants here. And then in 1846, after Texas had been a country for 10 years, Texas wanted its independence from Mexico, but many people don't remember we still were in conflict with Mexico. There was a dispute over the border. Mexico claimed to bring all the way up north and included San Antonio and Vallejo. We, of course, said it was the Rio Grande. We had a hard time settling that with Mexico, and the other thing that happened during the War of Independence, we spent all our money, Texas was broke. So some of the leaders in the state or in the country went to DC to consider annexing us as a state. And oh, by the way, if you do, you please settle this dispute with Mexico and pay our bills. So finally, in 1846, we were admitted to the United States of America as the 13th, the 25th state. It's a little controversial because before then was 12. We're getting ready to enter into what became the Civil War, and there were 12 free states and 12 slave states, and nobody wanted to get one more to offset the vote. But we finally got it done, and the president of the United States at the time was John Tyler, our namesake, for our city. So, in the state, which incorporated the counties, picked Colonel James Smith, to be what's the county got its name from. And he was a military leader in the War of Independence with Mexico. Still has some descendants here today. Not too terribly long ago, we had a city councilman named Steve Smith. He's a descendant of Colonel James Smith. So there's still some Smiths in Holland. We never were any Tylers. And this is the fun part I like to do about this talk, is to talk a little bit more about John Tyler and his first and that happened while he was president. John Tyler was vice president to William Henry Harrison. He didn't really want to run for vice president, but he got talked into it by his party. And back then, the party that ran for president didn't necessarily run together with someone else for vice president. So he was a different party than William Henry Harrison. So he was elected, but he was kind of his own person. And he did what he thought was right instead of what everybody else thought was right, which isn't a bad thing to do. But he was very popular with the other party, and then he became quickly unpopular with his party because William Henry Harrison died after 30 days in office. He got a cold, given his inaugural address, and died, and John Tyler became one of the first he had, vice president to become president because the president before him died. Now that's something new that I've done a little research on recently, but because he was the first one, there was no what we use today, the 25th Amendment. there was no law that said who became the president if the president dies. And so it was kind of controversial, and it went over 10 days without a president. And finally, John Tyler went to the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court and said, swear me in, we have to have somebody running this country. We've got to show the rest of the world that we're still viable, and that kind of thing. So they did, and they called it the Tyler precedent going forward. And believe it or not, that lasted until 1967 when they passed the 25th Amendment. And so what happened with that, so John Tyler was the first president to become president because the one before him died by default. But because there wasn't that amendment, there was nothing that said he could appoint a vice president. So the entire time he was president, we did not have a vice president. So fortunately, nothing happened that year. But this went on until 1967, and we went through McKinley and Garfield and Lincoln. And finally, and even Roosevelt, and it finally got to when JFK was assassinated, and someone said, hey, we got to do something about this because John Kennedy was shot. The rumor was that Johnson had been too, and everybody was freaking out. What are we going to do? Well, Johnson wasn't shot, and he became president. But Johnson and all of those before him also didn't have vice presidents. I guess I was probably too young. I didn't realize that there was no VP while Johnson finished Kennedy's term. But after he got re-elected in '64, Humphrey was his VP, and finally got an amendment in 1967 passed the 25th, which calls for the vice president to automatically be sworn in. And then it also went downward, which it goes to the Speaker of the House, the Senate Pro Tem, and then the Secretary of State. And of course, it got used many times after that with Nixon and Ford, and it even got used when Reagan's assassination was attempted because, if you remember, he was unable to perform his duties, and that amendment also allowed for the vice president to become the acting president until he was able again. So just a little side history on Tyler there that I have a tendency to go off on, but I thought that was kind of interesting. I'm so glad that we didn't lose the president when we didn't have a vice president. The thing that they said was scary about the Kennedy thing was that Johnson, of course, was not hurt, but that if he had, they said, I can't remember who it was, but the Speaker of the House was like 87, and the Senate Pro Tem was 89. And so they didn't have anywhere to go below that at that point either. So anyway, you'll remember when Reagan got shot. Remember the famous thing where Alexander Haig claimed he was in charge? Because he was Secretary of State. Well, they had to go through 3 other people before they got to him. But the Secretary of State is more than likely to take over if it would ever go down that far. Hopefully it never would. So anyway, the guy there, John Tyler was the first one that did that. John Tyler also lost his wife when he was in office, so he was the first one to lose their spouse as president. And then he became the first one to remarry while he was president. And the reason I tell you all that is because his chronological history is so interesting. 1996, Tyler and Smith County celebrated our Centennial, 150th birthday. So we kind of made a big deal about it around here. We got special logos made and all these, every special event that took place that year, that was our theme, that it was our 150th birthday. And then the year came to a climax when we had a parade, we celebrated our birthday, we had a big banquet and all this stuff. So we did some research and we found John Tyler's grandson, and his grandson came and was our Grand Marshal at the parade. He'd never been to Tyler, I don't think he'd ever even been to Texas. But he came down and told a little bit about his grandfather from what he knew. Now think about it, this was 1996. His grandfather was president in 1846. So how did that happen? Well, I mentioned John Tyler's wife died after they had 7 children, by the way. He remarried and he had 7 more children. So he had 14 total. His last child was born when he was 65. And that particular child had the same thing happen to him. His wife died, and he remarried someone a little bit younger. And his last child was born when he was in his 60s. And that's who came to Tyler, was that last child. His name is Harrison Tyler, which ironically enough, it ended up John Tyler and William Henry Harrison were related. And that's how he was named after. He's still alive, he's 90, he's only 91. His dad, dementia, lives in a facility, so he has a hard time remembering one day from the next and that kind of thing. I found a recent article about it, and that's how I kind of knew that. But, so, fortunately, because it was controversial that John Tyler was, it was controversial that Texas become a state. John Tyler really pushed for it, and it became into law on his last day in office. So I love telling people, well, aren't you glad we called Tyler? It has a nice ring to it. If not, we would have been Polk, Texas. So I kind of think Tyler has a better ring. Here's the whole lineage that I just described to you. That's Harrison at the top. About the time he came to Tyler, I'm sure he was a little different then. That's the Tyler homestead in Virginia. It's still owned by the Tyler family. Harrison's son is running it. It's open for tours and that kind of thing, but they live on the second story. It's the only presidential homestead that's still occupied by the original family of the president. So that's a little bit of an update on Tyler. There's Sean Tyler and there's Harrison there. I don't think they look anything alike, but kind of interesting hairstyles back when Sean Tyler was president. And I really love the tie. Because ties like that these days. So then we go after Tyler became a community and this county became a county, then we kind of started growing a little bit. Population was about 1,000, that kind of thing. We weren't too big. Tyler was kind of your first stop as you came into Texas from the east, which is where a lot of people were coming from. So our population grew pretty fast. But then you get into the word war. You were immediately, of course, forced into the Civil War. And there wasn't a lot of activity in the Civil War in the state of Texas. There were very few battles, if any. But we did, Tyler does have the distinction of having had the only prisoner of war camp west of the Mississippi. Did I get that right? This is where you're not right. You correct me.
One at Hempstead down there in Houston.
And then there was a second one. So there are only one or two? Okay. All right. So were there any battles in Texas?
Yeah, Galveston.
Galveston.
Sabine Pass.
Sabine Pass. So water through the naval.
And then the last one was down Palmetto. I think was down near Corpus Christi in South Texas.
So were they all part of the naval part of the war?
Well, that one in South Texas was not, but it was fought after the war had already ended.
Oh, okay. We couldn't text each other back then and tell them when wars were over, so it took a long time for CNN broadcast. Yeah. So anyway, that was our one distinguished with that particular war, but there's another coming on. So then you have, as we go through all the 1800s, and I'm going to go real fast with that, Tyler, because its population was growing, we were more of a population center than we are necessarily today. We didn't have the huge pockets in Dallas and Austin and Houston and San Antonio. So we had a lot more political influence, and for three governors in a row, we had 3 governors in a row from Tyler. We haven't had any since, but for those 3 years in the 1800s, and had a lot of influence in the way we ended up. It's Governor Hubbard on the left, Governor Robertson in the middle, and Governor Hall on the far right, who were very influential in different parts of Texas, where we had railroads and education and other things like that. And during the same time, and this is where I might get some wrong again, we also had the Speaker of the House of the state, which was Mr. T.R. Bonner of the Bonner from the Clinton House, of that family. That's where that comes from. He was Speaker of the House. We also had U.S. Senator Horace Chilton, which Chilton Street is named after. So you can see we have a lot more political clout than we did. One little side note first, Tyler is the only city in the state of Texas that has had a U.S. Senator from Texas that was in both positions of U.S. Senator. In other words, each state has 2 senators, right? Whether it's place 1 or place 2 or whatever you want to call them. Normally, you run in one of them and serve in that position. Chilton was appointed his first term, and then he decided to run for re-election, and he lost. A few years later, he decided to run when the other place came up, and he ran and he won. So it's just a little bit of tidbit you can follow that. I'm not sure I would have ever done that. I have to give credit to the Senator Hutchinson. I was in her office one day in Washington, and they had pictures of all the senators from Texas, and she pointed out to me, here's I don't know what they call it. They don't call it place 1 and place 2. The senior and the junior, I guess, or whatever. She said, have you not ever noticed that Tyler's the only one that has somebody that was in both of them? So that's how I found that little bit of tidbit. So I don't know how I ended up being this person to do all this history, but I think it's because I've been around so long and just happened to be at the right place at the right time on. Because a lot of it is stories and things that have heard, which kind of makes it a lot of fun. So let's see, we're going backwards now. Some of those Oakwood Cemetery, if you haven't been there, it's a great historical cemetery. There's one of those cities, Tyler. You should go there. The reason it slides in there is because Governor Hubbard stayed in Tyler until he died. He actually married in Tyler Rural. After he was governor, he moved to Tokyo because Robert Cleveland appointed him the ambassador to Japan from the United States. He went over there, and after when he came back, he brought a present to the city of Tyler about some ginkgo trees. Y'all know what ginkgo trees are? They're kind of the ones that turn really bright yellow in the fall. There's some up and down Broadway. There's 2 on either side of Ed's office, and those are the 2 that he brought back. One of them has a little plaque there, but he put those on his boat when he was coming back, and he had to go travel by boat. And he brought us those ginkgo trees. Governor Hubbard is born in Oakwood Cemetery, as is a lot of other fairly notable people. And then, of course, we've got a couple schools named after Hubbard. Hogg lived here while he was governor, but many of you probably know he moved to Houston after that, and that's where his family home is. And so we had Hubbard and Hogg. We did have, there's Bonner and Chilton. And we did have in the Clinton House. Boy, I'm really sitting for this tonight. There's the Chilton House. Next we're going to get to oil. So, anyway, what was I going to say about Roberts? We did have a junior high named after Roberts, which is the facility. If you come down Broadway and go past our office at the Blackstone, go underneath the underpass at the intersection with Ritchie Parkway, you're looking right over to your right, that was Roberts. If you look at it closely, it looks just like the Hogg structure on Broadway. They were built about the same time. So, we moved along through the 1800s, got to the 1900s, didn't grow all that fast. We were a small agricultural growing community, as most communities were in the state of Texas. But everything was going good. We were growing just a little bit until we got to 1929. And in 1929, in history was what? Well, the Great Depression hit. Well, guess what? Something else hit at about the same time. We discovered the oil field in Van Zandt County and the East Texas oil field near Kilgore in Greer County. And all bets were off. We did not have a Great Depression in Tyler, Texas. Hundreds of thousands of people, hundreds and up to thousands of people moved here, trying to get a piece of black gold, that kind of thing. It changed this area forever because of the amount of people that moved in, and they moved in from all over from all over. You had all kinds of cultures moving in, which really kind of ended up defining us. I mean, you had people from, you know, large contingency of Lebanese people moved to Tyler, people from Syria, from Italy, all kinds of places all over the world. And so a lot of it ended up staying and putting their footprint in our community. So we kind of have that distinction. In good old Tyler, Texas, which I didn't mention when I talked about us being named after President John Tyler. Because John Tyler was sort of an unpopular president, I guess I shouldn't say it this way. Let me just put it this way. The city of Tyler is the only city named Tyler. You can Google it. There's not another city in the entire United States named Tyler. Now, most cities have multiple names in different states, like you go to Jacksonville, Texas, and Jacksonville, Florida, and that kind of thing. As a matter of fact, looking through my trivia, Springfield seems to be the most popular because 48 out of the 50 states have a Springfield.
Oh, wow.
So it's a tremendous advantage to us to be the only one named Tyler because, especially in our technical world, we pop up a lot sooner than a lot of other places, so we can take that to our advantage. So anyway, the oil field was discovered. Y'all know Smitty Ray works leadership time. She put this PowerPoint together for me. I said, we really need to find something different than the old palace for a slide, so we'll work on with that. But it's a good example because the old palace was built, as you know, by the Mansell family here. The Mansell family came here to get in the oil business originally. So that's just an example of some culture that came here during that time. So we were very blessed because we didn't have a depression. And my good side story with that is that we did have a Sears Road here in Tyler at that time. We are going to go clean up Garfield Park here in a couple of weeks, so this is pretty relevant to that. So the owner of the Sears company, Mr. Wood, decided that wanted to find out what's going on in Tyler, Texas. I have stores all over the United States, and only one store this year made a profit, and it was in Tyler, Texas. What are they doing right? So he got on a plane and hopped down here to see if he could figure it out so he could spread the wealth to his other stores. And we quickly found out what happened. And but he kind of fell in love with Tyler and thought it was a really nice area. And he was just really fortunate and very grateful that he had at least one store, and hopefully he made a profit. So he decided to give back to the citizens for providing him with that profitable store. So the Sears Roebuck Company gave the city the amphitheater in Garfield Park. So that's where it originally came from. It's been redone, including recently, several times. But the original one, the way it's shaped and everything, when you're there cleaning out, you'll notice that the city's done a good job preserving a lot of historical, a lot of the stone that goes around it. That's part of the original one that was there. It was built during the work program that was provided during the Depression. So it's a good story. Now I've got to get that story as much as I can because as every day goes by and there's fewer and fewer Sears stores, most people aren't going to know what I'm talking about with the Sears. I got the same talk to the Tyler young professionals, and a lot of them didn't know what a Sears store was. So, it changes over time. But the amphitheater is still here. Thank you very much, Sears. So the oil industry caused a humongous population expansion. We had to pave streets real quickly. We didn't have a lot of paved streets. A lot of people moved in here. They were all filling up our few hotels that we had. As a matter of fact, the Blackstone Hotel was kind of the focal point for all the big wheelers and dealers at that time. They wouldn't ever leave. So the hotel was getting frustrated because they couldn't even get them to leave their rooms to clean them because there was always some business deal going in there. So they got together and they built a building right next door called the Blackstone Building where my office is. And it was an addition to the hotel to get those people out of their rooms and give them an office. So that's what it was originally built for. And then it became the headquarters for Delta Drilling at the maybe they were never named the largest trailer company in North America. Then they later moved into what's the Plaza Tower now, and that doesn't exist. So, and that was an example of a family that came here from Italy. So, oil has changed us forever. There's the hotel. Many of you never saw it. Rock saw it, I saw it, a few others saw it, and then there's the building that's where we're operating from today. A couple other odds and ends that I like to do. The Goodman Museum was a gift to the city of Tyler, and it's now serves a great purpose and focal point for tourists. We have tons of tourists who go through Goodman Museum. Been a lot the last couple of weeks. We don't have a lot of balloons right now, but we have a lot of people trying to find other things to do, like go through Goodman Museum. So if you haven't ever been, you might want to tour that. So does anybody know what that is below that? It's a water tower. It's a cement water tower. It's just a little bit more trivia. It's the largest cement water tower in the world. Because right after it was built, they quit building cement water towers, and they built another one. But our water tower is still there. It's still used, right? It's an important part of our water infrastructure. So I don't know how modern it is, or what it costs to keep that, but we've still got it. It's not hardly noticed if you look at it, but Colleen and I worked at a bank for 14 years. That bank at one point, when I worked there, it was Rotary Regions. It was owned by a bank that had used to be on several banks across the state, and they decided to do an ad campaign, and they had us all send pictures of our skylines, and then took all the skylines and combined it into one, and so that it was going to be called, the name of the bank was First City, it was going to be called First City, Texas, and it would have combinations of all the skylines. So when they got it all made, they sent it to me, because I was doing the marketing function at that time at the bank, and they said, what do you think, everybody? What do you think about what we put in there? And I said, what did you put in there for power? And they said, this right there. And I said, oh, that's the water tower. You do know that's a water tower. It's not a building. Well, it was so unique. Look, we thought it meant your skyline kind of stick out. I said, well, you know what it is, just leave it in there. So that thought that was kind of a fun deal. So we have lots of kind of unique cultures. She's standing up, so that means I need to thank you very much. But I didn't let anybody ask me a question. I could go on and on, but I don't think I have. There's that Rotary Park. I didn't even touch on the roses. Y'all didn't know we had roses, right?
Yeah.
That came in the late 30s, and that's a whole other time of history. So.
Any questions real quick?
When is part two?
Yeah, when is part two? Art? Art?
Yeah, just the old movie Casablanca with Humphrey Bogart. There was a cast member by the name of Dewey Wilson, played the part of Sam on the piano, and he's from Thailand. And I was just wondering if there are any of his family or recognition of him.
I don't know. That one's new to me. That one's going to be researched next because I have not heard that one. Do you know Ed?
Yeah, so his family does still live here in the area. On the half-mile history on the square, there's a plaque for him. So yeah, you can find out more about there.
Cool. Yeah, if you haven't ever done that downtown, if you haven't been downtown lately, come. There's a lot going on in downtown. If you haven't seen our new visitor center at the Plaza Tower, right next to Andy's, right next to True, you need to go try all that out. And all around the square is half-mile history, so you can learn a lot from reading those. Some of them even have QR codes on them, and you can scan and watch a little video.
Michael?
Just real quickly, can you give us an update on the convention center? We're losing a lot of convention center business to other cities our size and smaller.
You want me to do it, or are you ready?
I'll do this a real quick one on it, Henry. And so for the Rose Center, for the Rose Center complex, we'll be tearing down Harvey Hall probably later this year. I think contractor probably will take out the bid in April and award later that month as well. And so then we'll have a new facility built, new grounds done out there, expectation of opening in October, late October 2022.
The goal is to try to open the Rose Festival in October 2022. And I've seen the whole, Fitzpatrick Architects did it, and I've seen the whole layout and stuff. It's really, really great. And we do lose a lot of business. We're hopefully right soliciting that business now.
One last one, project.
Henry, you alluded to the fact that Tyler had paved streets back when the East Texas field came in. This was the mind frame, Manager Ed, that from 1913 to 1923, we had 21 miles of brick streets. Now we have 7 that's exposed. But it was the reason why we had Tyler, Longview, Tyler being considered the white collar town, Longview being considered the gray, because these wealthy oil company owners' wives didn't want to live in a town that had mud streets like Kilgore and Longview, so they picked Tyler. And for that reason, we had pretty affluent bunch during that time.
Yeah, and one side of that is the reason we got those street lights so quickly is because of an engineer at the city of Tyler who came up with a method to do it a little bit quicker, and his name is D.K. Caldwell. Is in Caldwell City.
Cook County Construction Society has a wonderful video on the brick streets that y'all want to come down there and watch it. Well, it's really interesting video.
Thank you very much, Henry. A couple of things as we wrap up. I'm going to thank Art for lining up our next month's speakers. He's got a great group: Tom Trimble from Encore, John Anderson from the Tyler Paper Regional Editor, Dan Hyland, Executive Director for CAST, and Kate Dietz, Manager for the Tyler Water Utilities.
One last thing, the match campaign starts Wednesday, so anybody who wants to take advantage of that, here is a check that I received from Dave Sherman today, surprisingly dated April the 1st.
Thank you.
He minds well.
Yes, he does. I want to tell our guests, Michael and Shannon, thank you for being here today. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about Rotary, South Tyler Rotary, we are, for new members, visitors, anybody who's interested, see Lee and Johnny behind this stage here. I was going to do more about Rotary pins, but we're past 1 o'clock, and I know that we're not supposed to do that. So we are going to wrap up. If I could get Ann, I'm going to put you on the spot to lead us in our 4-way test.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I've never done this before. The 4-way test of the things we think, say, or do. First,
Is it true?
Second,
Is it fair and lawful?
third,
Will it build goodwill to every Christian?
fourth.
Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Good job.
Hey, Tom, don't you know I'm a shot? I'm sorry. I just did that awesome. Oh my gosh.
What do you do with my flash drive?
You want to do what? I bet it's still in there, maybe. So let's go talk.
Oh, could I ask you one question? Is there really a picture of the Army guys during World War II doing close order drill on the athletic field at Hog Middle School? Have you seen it?
I've not seen it. I've seen it in the fields, I've seen some marching over there on that